The night was cold, the kind of cold that seeps through thin walls and lingers in the lungs. Rain hammered the rusted roof of the small roadside motel, drowning out the sound of her shallow breaths. Elena clutched her baby close, her arms trembling, not from weakness, but from fear. The child stirred, a soft whimper cutting through the storm. She pressed a kiss to his forehead, whispering, "Mama's here. We're safe now. No one will find us." But even as the words left her mouth, she didn't believe them. Every shadow beyond the curtains felt alive. Every passing car made her heart slam against her ribs. She had been running for weeks, fleeing the city, the towering glass buildings, the men in dark suits with eyes like wolves. Most of all, she was running from him, Dante Moretti, the man the underworld called the Phantom Boss, powerful, untouchable, and merciless, a man who could summon fear with a single glance, and who had once claimed her as his. But Elena had taken something he valued more than his empire, more than his money, more than his life, their child. Her son's small fingers curled against her blouse, warm and fragile. He was all she had left, her reason for defying a man feared by everyone else. But fear has a way of whispering in the dark, reminding her that no one defies Dante Moretti and lives free. The room's flickering light bulb buzzed, then went out. Elena's breath caught. For a moment, she thought it was him, that he had already found her. But when she peeked through the curtain, the parking lot was empty except for her old beat-up car. A sigh escaped her lips, shaky and uneven. She sat on the bed, rocking her baby, humming a lullaby her mother once sang to her. Her voice cracked under the weight of exhaustion. She thought about the night she left, the screaming argument, the slammed doors, the way his eyes glowed with something inhuman when anger consumed him. He was hiding a darkness, something beyond violence and crime. She had seen glimpses of it, claw marks etched in furniture, growls that didn't belong to a man. But fear had made her pretend it wasn't real, until the night she could no longer deny it. Until the night she packed her bags and ran, cradling her newborn, leaving behind a life of diamonds, power, and gilded cages. A knock echoed on the thin motel door. She froze. It was soft, too soft. Her throat closed. The baby stirred again, and she pressed a finger to her lips, rocking him silently. The knock came again, slow, deliberate, as if whoever was on the other side knew she was inside. Her pulse roared in her ears. "Who's there?" she called, her voice breaking. Silence. Then, the motel phone rang. Its shrill tone sliced through the silence, louder than the storm, louder than her own panicked heartbeat. She stared at it, unwilling to answer, but also unable to let it ring. Every instinct screamed at her not to pick it up, but she reached for it anyway, her hand trembling as she pressed the receiver to her ear. "Elena." Her blood turned to ice. That voice, low, commanding, dark silk with an edge of steel. It was him. "Did you really think you could hide from me?" Dante's tone was calm, but beneath it, she could hear something primal, something animalistic. "You and the child are mine. No matter where you run, I will find you." Her chest heaved as tears filled her eyes. She wanted to scream at him, to tell him he had no claim, no right. But the words wouldn't come, because deep down, she knew one thing. He was not just a man. And a man like Dante Moretti didn't make threats. He made promises. The line went dead. Elena dropped the phone, her whole body shaking. Her baby's cries pierced the silence, raw and frightened, as if he too had felt the darkness on the other end of that call. Elena hugged him tightly, whispering through clenched teeth, "I won't let him take you. I don't care who he is. I don't care what he is." But outside, in the rain, a black car pulled into the motel parking lot. Its headlights cut through the storm like glowing eyes in the dark, and Elena realized the nightmare was only beginning. The storm hadn't stopped. Hours passed, but the rain only grew heavier, pounding against the motel window like fists demanding entry. Elena sat on the edge of the bed, her baby finally asleep in her arms, his tiny breaths warm against her collarbone, but her own chest was tight, her mind replaying the voice on the phone, Dante. The name itself was a curse. Once it had rolled off her tongue in whispers of desire, promises, and stolen moments. Now it felt like the sound of chains rattling. She had thought distance would save her, town after town, motel after motel. But he had found her anyway, and if he could find her once, he could find her again. The headlights from the black car outside hadn't moved. They cut through the rain, still and watchful, like predators' eyes. Elena's breath hitched as a knock rattled her door again. This time harder. Her heart slammed against her ribs. She looked at her baby, then at the door. Her instinct screamed to run, but where? She whispered a prayer under her breath, inching toward the door. Her hand hovered over the knob when a voice drifted through the wood. Elena, not Dante. A different voice. Low, accented, almost mocking. One of his men, her stomach twisted. Boss wants to see you. No point in running anymore. Her knees nearly buckled. She pressed her forehead against the door, fighting tears. She had promised herself she would never go back. She had promised her son a life free from shadows and monsters. But she could feel it. The invisible chains tightening again. She shook her head violently, whispering to herself, No. No, I won't. The man on the other side chuckled. You think you have a choice? He doesn't like waiting, then silence. Footsteps retreating into the rain. Her pulse thundered in her ears. The car headlights switched off, and darkness swallowed the lot. For a moment, she thought they had left. But she knew better. Dante's men were like wolves, patient, circling, waiting for weakness. She moved quickly, grabbing the small bag she had kept packed for weeks. Diapers, formula, a change of clothes. Her entire life condensed into one worn duffel. She cradled her baby and whispered, We're leaving. Right now. Her hand shook as she shoved open the window. Cold rain slapped her face, soaking her hair as she climbed out into the night. The motel parking lot was silent. Too silent. She ran, clutching her baby tight against her chest, her shoes splashing through puddles. Her car sat just yards away. Freedom was right there. But before she reached it, a figure stepped out of the shadows. Tall, broad-shouldered. His black coat glistened with rain, his eyes gleaming under the dim light. Elena. Her breath stopped. It wasn't Dante, but it might as well have been. The man was one of his lieutenants. She remembered his face from the mansion. A scar ran across his cheek, a permanent reminder of the violence he lived in. You've made this harder than it needed to be, he said, his voice calm but menacing. Boss doesn't like when his belongings try to run. I'm not his belonging, she snapped, her voice breaking. Her baby whimpered, sensing her fear. The man tilted his head, almost amused. You keep telling yourself that now. Hand over the child. Her grip tightened around her baby. She shook her head. No, you'll have to kill me first. The man's eyes narrowed, and for a moment she thought he might actually do it. But then a phone buzzed in his pocket. He answered, muttering in Italian, his expression shifting as he listened. Finally, he glanced at her again, his lips curling into a cold smile. You're lucky. Boss wants to handle this himself. Her stomach dropped. Car's waiting, he said simply, pointing toward the black sedan. Elena's body trembled, torn between two impossible choices. Run and risk her baby's life, or walk willingly into the lion's den. The rain beat down harder, drenching her as she stood frozen in place. Her child whimpered again, and she kissed his damp hair, whispering through her tears, I'll protect you, no matter what. With trembling steps, she allowed herself to be led toward the car. The door opened, revealing the dark leather interior. She hesitated on the threshold, her reflection staring back at her in the tinted glass. A woman who had once believed she could escape. As she slid into the seat, the man shut the door behind her. The locks clicked, and the car pulled away from the motel, carrying her back toward the one man she had sworn to escape, Dante Moretti, the man whose voice still haunted her, the man whose curse she didn't yet understand, the man who had just whispered through the storm, You and the child are mine. The black sedan cut through the storm like a phantom, its tires hissing across wet asphalt. Inside, the air was heavy, suffocating. Elena clutched her baby, rocking him gently, though her own body shook with dread. The man with the scar sat across from her, his cold gaze fixed on her every movement. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. His silence was louder than words. The baby stirred, letting out a soft cry. Elena kissed his forehead, whispering, "It's okay, sweetheart. Mama's here." But her own voice betrayed her, fragile, breaking. The sedan slowed as it reached the outskirts of the city. Through the rain-streaked window, Elena saw familiar landmarks, streets she thought she'd never see again. Her chest tightened. She wasn't just going back to Dante. She was going back to a cage. When the car finally stopped, the scarred man opened the door and motioned for her to step out. Her breath caught. The mansion. It stood on a hill, just as she remembered. Grand, sprawling, its dark stone walls lit by rows of iron lanterns. Storm clouds loomed above it, casting shadows across its Gothic facade. It wasn't a home. It was a fortress, a place of secrets, danger, and darkness. She swallowed hard, stepping out into the rain, clutching her child as though he were the only thing tethering her to sanity. 2 more men in black coats stood at the gates, silent, watchful. Not guards, predators. The scarred man led her inside. The heavy doors groaned open, releasing the scent of polished wood, leather, and something faintly metallic, like blood masked beneath cologne. The air inside was warm, but it felt colder than the storm. Every step echoed as she walked through the marble-floored foyer. Her baby shifted restlessly, sensing the unease that filled the mansion's walls. And then she heard it. A voice. Low, commanding. All too familiar. Elena. She froze. Her heart leapt into her throat. At the top of the grand staircase he stood, Dante Moretti. The years hadn't changed him. If anything, time had made him more dangerous. Tall, broad-shouldered, his black suit clung to him like armor. His eyes, dark, sharp, and predatory, locked onto her with unyielding intensity, and even from across the room she felt it. The pull, the power. Her knees weakened, but she held her ground. Dante descended the staircase with measured steps, every movement deliberate, every inch of him radiating control. When he reached the bottom, he stopped just feet away. For a moment, the storm outside seemed to vanish. There was only him, and her, and the child in her arms. "You've run long enough," Dante said softly, though his voice carried like thunder. His gaze flicked to the baby and his jaw tightened. "My son," Elena flinched. "He's my son. You lost the right to claim him when you—" Her voice faltered as his eyes flashed, not just with anger, but with something darker, something inhuman. For the briefest second they glowed, golden, animalistic, before returning to black. Her stomach twisted. She wasn't imagining it. She had seen it before, and now she was seeing it again. Dante stepped closer. "You think you can raise him alone? Hide him from me? He is mine, Elena, just as you are." Her grip on the child tightened. Her voice rose, trembling but fierce. "I am not yours, and neither is he." The scarred man shifted uneasily, watching the clash unfold. But Dante didn't move. He only studied her, his gaze unreadable. Finally he leaned in, his lips close to her ear. "You can lie to yourself, but you can't lie to me. You feel it, don't you? The bond, the pull, the truth of what I am." His words sent chills racing down her spine. Elena forced herself to meet his eyes. "What you are is a monster." For the first time his expression cracked. Something flickered in his gaze. Not anger, not rage, but pain. A shadow of the man he once was. Then, just as quickly, it was gone. "Take her to the East Wing," Dante ordered, his voice hard again. "She doesn't leave this house." The scarred man nodded, motioning for her to follow. Elena's heart pounded as she was led away, her baby's cries echoing down the dark halls. But even as the distance grew between them, she could feel Dante's eyes still on her, watching, claiming, waiting. And in that moment, she realized this wasn't just about power. This wasn't just about control. Dante Moretti was hiding something that connected him not only to her, but to their child. The east wing of the Moretti mansion was colder than the rest of the house. Elena could feel it the moment the scarred man opened the heavy door and ushered her inside. The chamber was lavish. Velvet drapes, gilded mirrors, a chandelier that sparkled with dim light. But none of it felt alive. The room was more like a museum piece. Stunning, yet hollow. Her baby fussed in her arms, his soft whimpers echoing off the stone walls. She kissed his hair, whispering, "I know, sweetheart. I don't like it either." The scarred man set her duffel on the bed and spoke without looking at her. "Boss will send for you when he's ready. Don't try to leave." And then he was gone, the lock clicking firmly behind him. Elena stood frozen, listening to the silence. But it wasn't complete silence. There was something, a faint scratching, a low hum, almost like a growl buried deep within the walls. It made the hair on her arms rise. She walked to the window, pulling back the curtain. The storm had eased into a steady drizzle, but the grounds outside were still cloaked in darkness. Beyond the manicured gardens and wrought iron gates lay only forest, dense, endless, and consuming. Her chest tightened. This wasn't just a mansion. It was a cage carved into the wilderness, designed so no one could leave. She pressed her forehead against the glass, tears brimming in her eyes. "I should never have come back," she whispered. The baby stirred again, letting out a tired cry. She rocked him gently, humming that same lullaby her mother used to sing. Her voice wavered, breaking on the notes, and then the door creaked open. Elena spun, clutching her child tighter. Dante stood in the doorway, the storm's faint light at his back. He hadn't knocked. He didn't need to. Her breath caught as he stepped inside. The room felt smaller with him in it, his presence pressing against the air, against her chest. "Are you comfortable?" he asked, his tone deceptively polite. Elena's voice was sharp, defensive. "Comfortable? You dragged me here against my will. Does this look comfortable to you?" His gaze dropped to the baby, then lifted back to her. "Safer than the road. Safer than those who would kill to get to him." Her stomach twisted. "What do you mean?" Dante moved closer, his eyes dark and unreadable. "There are families who would rather see my bloodline erased. They've been watching, waiting. If they knew where you were hiding..." He paused, his voice dropping lower. "They would have taken him already." Her heart slammed in her chest. She wanted to deny it, but deep down she knew he was right. She had seen those shadowed figures lingering near her last motel. She had felt eyes on her that didn't belong to Dante. But she forced herself to speak, her tone firm. "I don't need your protection. I don't want your protection. All I want is to raise my son in peace." For a moment, something flickered across his expression, something almost human. But it vanished, replaced by the cold steel of the man she remembered. "You can't protect him alone," Dante said softly, yet with dangerous certainty. "You don't know what he is." The words struck her like ice. Her grip on the child tightened. "What are you talking about?" Dante's gaze lingered on the sleeping boy. When he finally looked back at her, his eyes flashed again, gold, feral, alive with something not of this world. Her breath caught. No, she wasn't imagining it this time. It was real. Elena's lips trembled. "What are you?" Silence hung between them. Then Dante turned away, his jaw tight. "You'll know soon enough." He moved toward the door, his voice colder now. "Dinner is at 8. Don't be late." The door shut behind him, leaving her shaking in the stillness. Elena pressed her back against the wall, her baby stirring again in her arms. Her tears spilled freely now, hot against her cheeks. She whispered into the boy's soft hair, her voice breaking. "What did I bring you into, my love? What kind of monster is your father?" Outside, thunder rolled across the sky, and deep within the mansion, behind walls and locked doors, something answered back. A growl, low and primal, rattling through the silence. The dining hall of the Moretti mansion stretched endlessly, a cathedral of shadows and candlelight. The long oak table gleamed beneath golden chandeliers, though most of its chairs sat empty. Only 2 places had been set, one at the head, and one just to the side. Elena stood at the threshold, her baby nestled in her arms, her chest tightening as she took it all in. Once, she had dined here as a guest, silks on her body, wine in her glass, Dante's eyes always on her. Tonight she was no guest. She was a prisoner dressed in borrowed clothes, her duffel tucked away in the east wing, and her heart pounding like a war drum. "Sit," Dante's voice commanded. He sat already at the head of the table, black suit sharp against the candlelight, a glass of dark red wine in his hand. His gaze didn't leave her as she lowered herself into the chair across from him, clutching her baby close. The silence stretched, broken only by the distant sound of rain tapping against the tall windows. Dante finally spoke. He looked strong, her stomach clenched. "Of course he's strong. He's my son." Dante's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "He's our son." Elena's jaw tightened, her fingers brushing against her child's tiny hand. "You don't get to say that. You don't get to claim him after everything you've done." Dante leaned back, swirling the wine in his glass. His eyes glinted with something unreadable. "Elena, I built an empire for men to fear me. But for him, for you, I would burn it all." The words sent a shiver through her, but she forced her face to remain hard, unflinching. "You can't rewrite the past with pretty promises. You're not a savior, Dante. You're a tyrant." A flicker of something, pain, regret, passed through his eyes. But it was gone in an instant, buried beneath the weight of who he had become. The silence returned, heavy and suffocating, until the baby stirred, letting out a small, uncertain whimper. Elena began to hum softly, the lullaby she had sung in the motel room. Her voice trembled, but the melody calmed her son, his tiny breath slowing again. Dante's gaze softened as he watched. For a moment, the beast inside him seemed to recede. His eyes weren't just predatory, they were almost human. "You always sang to me too," he murmured, almost to himself. "Back when I still believed I could escape what I am." Elena's throat tightened. "What are you, Dante?" The question hung in the air, heavier than the storm outside. Dante didn't answer. Instead, he lifted his glass and drank deeply, the muscles in his jaw tightening as though he were swallowing down the truth with the wine. Elena leaned forward, her voice sharp. "I saw it. That night, your eyes, the sound you made. You're not just a man. So stop pretending." The glass slammed against the table, wine spilling across the white linen. The baby startled, crying out, and Elena instantly rose, rocking him, glaring at Dante with fury. "You scared him," she snapped. "Is this what you wanted? To prove you're just as much of a monster to him as you are to me?" Dante stood slowly, his expression unreadable, though his hands trembled faintly at his sides. When he spoke, his voice was quieter, almost broken. "I never wanted this life for him, but blood doesn't lie." Elena froze. Her heart raced as she whispered, "What do you mean?" Dante's eyes locked onto hers, golden for just a flicker, wild, dangerous, yet vulnerable. "You think the curse ends with me?" he said, his voice low, haunted. "It doesn't. It lives in him too." The room tilted. Her knees went weak as her grip tightened around her son. "No," she whispered. "No, that's not possible." But deep down she knew. She had felt it in the way her child sometimes stared into the dark, as though he could see more than she could. She had felt it in the unnatural strength of his tiny grip, the heat that lingered in his skin even when the world was cold. Dante stepped closer, his voice rough, pained. "You can hate me. You can run from me, but you can't run from what's inside him." Elena's tears blurred her vision as she shook her head violently. "I won't let you taint him with your lies. I'll protect him from all of this. From you, from whatever you are." Dante's jaw clenched. He stopped just inches from her, his presence overwhelming, his voice nothing but a whisper now. "You can protect him from me, Elena. But who will protect him from himself?" The question sliced through her like a blade, and in that moment, she realized something terrifying. The greatest danger to her son might not be Dante at all. It might be the blood he had inherited. The mansion was quiet that night. Too quiet. Elena lay awake in the massive canopy bed, her baby nestled in a crib beside her. The silk sheets did little to warm her, the air in the east wing carrying a chill that seeped into her bones. She couldn't stop replaying Dante's words over and over. It lives in him too, her son, her innocent, beautiful boy. Could he really carry the same darkness that haunted his father? She reached down, brushing her fingers gently over his tiny hand. His skin was warm, almost hot, even though the room was cold. His fingers curled tightly around hers, stronger than they should have been. Her heart pounded. She wanted to dismiss it as imagination, as fear twisting reality, but she couldn't shake the unease growing inside her. A floorboard creaked in the hallway. Elena froze. Her eyes darted to the door. The lock was still bolted, but the sound hadn't come from outside. It had come from within the walls. A faint scratching followed. Slow, deliberate, like claws dragging against wood. Elena's breath caught. She scooped her baby into her arms, rocking him gently as she whispered, "It's just the house, just the storm." But the storm had passed hours ago. The scratching grew louder, moving along the wall toward the corner of the room. And then, a low growl. Her blood ran cold. It wasn't human. It wasn't even close. The baby whimpered, his little body trembling against her chest. He felt it too. Elena backed toward the bed, her eyes wide, heart hammering against her ribs. The growl deepened, vibrating through the walls, through the floor, through her very bones. And then, silence. The kind of silence that suffocates. She waited, breathless, until the mirror on the far wall cracked. A jagged line split down its center, as if struck by an invisible hand. Elena screamed, clutching her child tighter. She stumbled backward, tears welling in her eyes. The door burst open. Dante stood there, his chest heaving, his black shirt damp with sweat. His eyes, golden, glowing, feral, locked onto hers. "What happened?" he demanded, his voice rough, guttural. Elena pointed with a shaking hand toward the mirror. It just broke. I heard something in the walls. I heard growling, Dante." His gaze flicked to the cracked mirror, then back to her. For a moment his face twisted, not with anger but with something close to fear. "Elena," he said, his voice lower now. Did he cry? Did the child react? Her chest tightened. She hugged the baby protectively, whispering. He was terrified. He felt it too. Dante's jaw clenched, his hands curling into fists at his sides. "Of course he did," he muttered under his breath. Elena's voice rose, sharp and desperate. "Tell me the truth, Dante. What is happening in this house? What are you?" For a long moment he didn't answer. The glow in his eyes flickered, dimming, though not disappearing. Finally he spoke. "I am cursed, bound to a bloodline that should have died centuries ago, a wolf that wears a man's skin, and now that curse runs in him too." Her knees weakened. She shook her head violently, clutching her child as though she could protect him with sheer will. No, you're lying. He's just a baby. He's pure. He's not like you." Dante stepped closer, his voice low, urgent. "Elena, you don't understand. The signs are already there. His strength, his heat, the way he senses things you can't. He is mine in more ways than blood." Elena's tears spilled, hot against her cheeks. She pressed her face to her son's soft hair, whispering, "I won't let you turn him into a monster." Dante's jaw tightened. His voice broke just for a moment. "I don't want him to be a monster. I want him to survive." The silence that followed was heavier than the growl that had rattled the walls. Finally, Dante turned toward the door. "I'll have this wing sealed. You'll sleep in another room tomorrow." Elena's voice cracked as she called after him. "Dante, if you really love him, if you ever loved me, stay away from us." He paused at the threshold, his broad frame filling the doorway. For a moment she thought he might say something, an apology, a plea, anything. But he only whispered, "I can't stay away. Not from him, not from you." And then he was gone, leaving her trembling in the candlelight, her baby's heartbeat pounding against her own. But as she sank to the floor, clutching him close, one truth echoed louder than her fear. The curse was real, and it had already marked her son. The next evening, the mansion was hushed. Even the staff moved differently. Quieter, more cautious, as though the walls themselves were listening. Elena had barely slept. Her eyes were rimmed red, her body trembling from the weight of fear and questions. She hadn't spoken to Dante since the mirror cracked, but she knew he would come, and he did. The door to her new room opened just after dusk. Dante stepped inside, his black coat dripping from the rain outside. His presence filled the space, commanding, impossible to ignore. Elena rose from the armchair, holding her baby close. She didn't bother hiding the steel in her voice. "If you're here to scare me again, you can leave." Dante's gaze softened, if only slightly. "I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to tell you the truth. You deserve that much." Her heart raced. For years she had begged for answers. And now, finally, he was offering them. She sank back into the chair, rocking the baby gently, her eyes never leaving his. "Then talk." Dante exhaled slowly, moving to stand by the fireplace. The flames licked upward, casting golden light across his sharp features, illuminating the shadows beneath his eyes. "My family. We were never meant to survive this long," he began. "We come from a line cursed in blood centuries ago. My ancestor, Lorenzo Moretti, betrayed a clan of warriors who were not fully human. He broke an oath, killed one of their kind, and spilled innocent blood under a full moon." Elena shivered, pulling the blanket tighter around her child. "What kind of warriors?" she asked, though her voice was barely a whisper. Dante's eyes lifted to hers, and for a flicker of a second, they glowed gold in the firelight. "Werewolves." Her breath caught in her throat. He continued, his voice low, almost reverent. "The clan cursed my ancestors' bloodline. Every firstborn son would carry the beast, a wolf that grows stronger with every generation, bound to the moon, bound to rage. We are men by day, but when the moon calls," his jaw tightened, his voice roughened, "there's no stopping what we become." Elena's pulse thundered in her ears. She wanted to laugh, to deny it. But she had seen his eyes change, heard the growl that shook the walls. And now the pieces fell into place. Her voice trembled as she asked, "And you? You've changed?" Dante's gaze fell to the flames. "Since I was 13. That was my first shift. My father locked me in a cellar, told me it was the only way to keep me from tearing the household apart. I broke out anyway. I killed our groundskeeper that night." Elena gasped, covering her mouth with one hand. His voice cracked, raw and pained. "I swore I'd never let it happen again. I trained myself to control it, to cage it. But every full moon the fight gets harder. The beast inside doesn't want to be contained. It wants blood, and it will never stop wanting." Silence stretched between them. Only the fire crackled, filling the room with its restless hum. Finally, Elena whispered, "And you're telling me our son carries this too?" Dante's head lowered. "Yes." Her eyes filled with tears, her arms tightening around the baby's tiny body. "He's innocent, Dante. He doesn't deserve this." Dante stepped closer, his voice thick with grief. "Do you think I wanted this for him? For you? That's why I stayed away. That's why I let you go. I thought distance would keep you safe, but blood can't be undone." Her tears fell freely now, dripping onto her child's soft blanket. "Then what future does he have? To become a monster like you?" For the first time, Dante's voice rose, fierce and desperate. "No, not a monster. Stronger, faster, deadlier than anyone who would dare harm him. He won't be weak. He won't be prey. He'll be a king among wolves if he chooses it." Elena shook her head, her voice breaking. "I don't want a king. I just want a boy who can laugh and play in the sunlight. I want him human, Dante." He stared at her, the firelight dancing across the torment etched in his face, and for the briefest moment, she saw the man he had once been. The boy cursed too young. The man who had carried the beast his whole life. When he finally spoke, his words were soft, almost a plea. "Then pray he takes after you, not me." Elena closed her eyes, clutching her son tightly, as though sheer love could shield him from destiny. But in her heart, she knew the truth. The blood had already chosen. Morning came gray and heavy, the sky outside smothered in thick clouds. Elena sat by the window, her baby in her arms, trying to soak in what little light filtered through. She hadn't slept. Her mind churned with Dante's confession, replaying his words like a curse of their own. A wolf in the blood, a curse that never dies. Her son cooed softly, tugging at her hair with surprising strength. She smiled weakly through her tears, kissing his tiny forehead. "You don't know what he said, do you, my love? You don't know the kind of life he's already written for you." The child giggled, and then, in the blink of an eye, something shifted. The silver rattle in her lap, his favorite, slid toward him on the cushion. He hadn't touched it, hadn't reached for it, but it moved. Elena froze, her breath catching. The baby laughed, delighted, and the rattle rolled right into his waiting hands. Her heart thundered in her chest. No, 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 no. It had to be a trick of gravity. A slope in the cushion. Something natural. But then it happened again. The toy leapt from the chair across the room, sailing through the air and landing neatly in his little fist. The baby squealed with joy, waving it wildly. Elena's blood ran cold. This was no trick. Her hands shook as she pulled him tighter to her chest, whispering in a voice that quivered with fear. "What are you, my sweet boy? What are you becoming?" The door opened without warning. Dante stood there, his sharp gaze flicking instantly to the toy in her son's hand. He saw the fear on her face. He saw the truth. Elena's voice rose, breaking. "You knew! You knew it would start this early, didn't you?" Dante stepped inside, his jaw tight, his expression unreadable. "I didn't know when. But yes, it begins young. The power in the blood doesn't wait." Her tears spilled as she rocked her baby, her voice trembling with rage. "He's just a child, Dante. He's supposed to crawl before he walks, to speak before he commands the world around him. You've cursed him with something he can't even understand." Dante moved closer, lowering his voice, his eyes fixed on the boy. "He's not cursed. He's gifted. Do you have any idea how many men would kill for what flows through his veins? He'll never be weak. He'll never be prey," Elena snapped, her voice sharp as glass. "He'll never be normal either. He'll never know peace. Is that the life you wanted for him?" The baby whimpered at her raised voice, and she immediately softened, kissing his hair, whispering comfort. Dante's expression flickered. Pain, regret, and pride all tangled into one. "Elena," he said softly, "you don't understand. He's not just mine. He's the first of us born from love, not war. That changes everything. It might even break the curse." Her eyes shot to his, filled with both fury and fragile hope, or it might make him stronger. Strong enough to lose himself, strong enough to destroy everything around him. Silence stretched. The child, blissfully unaware, clapped his little hands, the toy rattling in triumph. Finally, Dante spoke, his voice heavy with conviction. "Then I'll teach him control. I'll give him what my father never gave me. Discipline, strength, a choice." Elena shook her head, her voice trembling. "You can't teach a baby to fight the beast in his blood." Dante's golden eyes flickered, fierce and unyielding. "Then I'll start now. I won't let him be swallowed by it, not like I was." Elena's tears fell faster, splashing against her son's blanket. Her whisper cracked like glass. "And if he can't be saved?" Dante's jaw hardened. "Then I'll carry his curse for him, even if it kills me." For a moment, neither of them moved. The fire in Dante's eyes clashed with the terror in Elena's. Two worlds colliding in a war neither of them could win. And in the middle, their child laughed again, his tiny hands clutching the silver rattle that had leapt across the room as if drawn by fate. Elena closed her eyes, holding him tighter. She prayed it had only been a trick. She prayed it was all just fear twisting her vision, but in her heart she knew. The curse had already awakened. The storm had passed, but the mansion didn't rest. Its halls were alive with whispers, footsteps, the constant shuffle of men in dark suits. Elena felt it in the air, the tension, the anticipation of something dreadful drawing closer. She was pacing the nursery, rocking her baby to sleep, when a knock thundered against the door. Before she could respond, the scarred man stepped inside. His presence chilled her to the bone. He carried no tray of food, no folded linens, only a leather envelope in one hand, and a gun strapped at his side. "Boss wants you in his office," he said flatly. Elena's throat tightened. She hugged her son tighter. "I'm not leaving him." The man gave a single nod. "Bring him. He should hear this, too." Her stomach dropped. She followed in silence, clutching her baby, her bare feet brushing against the cold marble floors. The mansion stretched endlessly, each hallway darker than the last, until finally the scarred man stopped before a pair of heavy double doors. He opened them without ceremony. Inside, Dante stood at the desk, broad shoulders rigid, his hands gripping the edge of the polished wood. Papers lay scattered across it, alongside a crystal decanter half drained of whiskey. His eyes lifted immediately to hers. There was something in them she hadn't seen before, urgency, edged with fear. "Elena, sit." She did not sit. Her voice trembled with defiance. "What is this about?" Dante exhaled sharply, raking a hand through his hair. They know. Her pulse quickened. Who knows? He looked at the child in her arms, his voice lowering, rough as gravel. Enemies I've kept at bay for years. Families older than mine, darker than mine. They've learned the truth, that I have an heir. Elena's breath caught, her knees weakening beneath her. No, that's impossible. I never told anyone. They have eyes everywhere, Dante cut in, and ears. They don't need your words. They can smell bloodlines. They can smell him. The baby stirred, letting out a soft whimper. Elena rocked him desperately, trying to hush him, though her own heart thundered so loud she feared it would wake him fully. She whispered, broken. They'll come for him. Dante's jaw clenched. They already have. From the corner of the room, the scarred man stepped forward and dropped the leather envelope on the desk. It spilled open. Inside were photographs, grainy, taken from a distance, but unmistakable. One showed Elena in the park weeks ago, holding her baby. Another captured them outside the dingy motel. And the last, her heart stopped, was of the nursery window here at the mansion. The curtains barely parted, her silhouette visible with the child in her arms. She staggered back, clutching her son tighter, her voice breaking. They've been watching us. Even here. Dante's fist slammed onto the desk, rattling the decanter, his voice a growl edged with something not entirely human. They're testing me. They want to see how far I'll go to protect him. And they know. They know the blood is strong in him. Elena's tears spilled hot down her cheeks. They'll kill him, Dante, or worse, they'll take him. For the first time, Dante's composure cracked fully. He strode toward her, his hands trembling as he reached out. Not for her, but for the boy. I won't let that happen. Do you hear me? I will burn every family, every clan, every last man who dares to touch him. No one takes what's mine. Elena flinched back, refusing to let the baby go. Her voice rose, desperate, trembling. You can't fight them all. You'll lose yourself. You'll lose him. Is that what you want? Dante's golden eyes flickered, the beast inside straining at the edges. But his voice broke as he whispered, I don't care if I lose myself. I care if I lose you. If I lose him. The room fell into heavy silence. The baby cooed softly, unaware of the war being carved around him. Finally, Elena's voice cracked, fragile but resolute. Then we have to run. Leave this place. Hide. He can't grow up in a cage with wolves clawing at the walls. Dante shook his head, his voice sharp. There's nowhere to hide. Not from them. The only way is through. Her eyes searched his, desperate for a sliver of hope. But all she saw was fire. The fire of a man ready to wage war against the world. And in that moment, she realized the truth that chilled her more than the enemies outside. The greatest danger to her child might not be those hunting them. It might be the beast already standing before her. Night fell heavy and sharp over the Moretti estate. The forest beyond the gates whispered with an unease Elena couldn't name, as if every shadow had grown teeth. She had just laid her baby down in the crib when the first sound came. Not thunder, not wind. A distant crack, muffled but unmistakable. Gunfire. Her breath froze in her chest. Then the alarms blared. The mansion erupted into chaos. Boots thundered down the hall. Radios barked frantic orders, and the sharp scent of smoke seeped into the air. Elena snatched her child into her arms, clutching him so tight he whimpered. She stumbled to the door, only for it to swing open before she could reach it. The scarred man stood there, gun drawn, his face harder than stone. Stay with me, he barked. No matter what you hear. Don't let go of him. Elena's voice trembled. What's happening? They've come, he said, his tone like iron. Every devil your son inherited has come to collect. Before she could respond, another crack split the air, closer this time. Glass shattered down the corridor, and masked figures in black stormed through, weapons raised. The scarred man fired without hesitation, his shots echoing like thunder in the marble hall. Move, he roared. Elena clutched her child and ran, her bare feet pounding against the cold floor as bullets tore into the walls around her. The baby cried out, his tiny voice piercing the chaos. But she couldn't stop. She couldn't breathe. Left. The scarred man shouted, shoving her toward a stairwell. Down to the cellar! But before they could descend, another explosion ripped through the hall. The blast knocked Elena to the ground, her baby wailing as she shielded him with her body. Her ears rang, dust filling her lungs. Through the haze, she saw them, figures advancing, their eyes glinting red in the darkness. Not just men, something more. One of them let out a growl that rattled the walls, guttural and animal, vibrating through Elena's bones. Her stomach dropped. These weren't ordinary assassins. They were wolves, too. Her scream tore from her throat, but before the creature could reach her, a darker shadow crashed through the smoke. Dante. His eyes blazed gold, brighter than she had ever seen. His shirt was torn, his chest heaving, and his hands, no, his claws, dripped crimson. He slammed into the first intruder with a force that cracked bone. The man's body hit the wall and slid down lifeless, blood smearing the marble. Another lunged. Dante spun, teeth bared, his growl a thunderous roar that shook the entire corridor. In one swift motion, he tore the mask from the attacker's face, revealing not a man, but a half-shifted beast, its jaw elongated, its eyes glowing like embers. Elena's breath caught. The enemy wasn't human either. Get her out, Dante roared, his voice deeper, layered with something feral. The scarred man grabbed Elena's arm, dragging her to her feet. But she couldn't tear her gaze from Dante as he ripped through the invaders, his movements more beast than man. Each strike was brutal, merciless, unstoppable, and yet, the more he fought, the less human he became. His claws extended, his jaw lengthened. The wolf was breaking through. Elena's tears blurred her vision. She rocked her baby against her chest, whispering desperately, "Don't look, my love. Don't look at him." But she couldn't look away. Dante stood over the last fallen enemy, his chest heaving, his body trembling with the fight. Blood soaked his skin, his golden eyes wild, untamed. He was no longer just Dante Moretti, the Mafia Boss. He was the beast, the curse in its full, terrifying glory. For a moment, silence fell. Then, from beyond the shattered windows, a horn blew low and haunting. The forest answered with howls, dozens of them. Elena's knees buckled. There were more coming. Many more. Dante turned, his eyes locking on hers, a war raging in their depths. "Elena, run!" Her voice cracked, full of terror and heartbreak. "You'll die out here!" His claws curled, his jaw trembling as he fought to keep the wolf from overtaking him fully. "If I fall, it's only because I was never meant to live long enough to love you. Go. Now." The scarred man pulled her hard, forcing her toward the stairwell. Elena clutched her child, sobbing as the sound of snarls and claws tearing into flesh filled the mansion behind her. And as she descended into the darkness, only one thought screamed in her mind. The war for her child's soul had begun. The cellar was dark, its stone walls dripping with cold, damp air. Elena stumbled down the narrow steps, her baby clutched tight, her tears mixing with the dust on her cheeks. Behind her, the mansion shook with violence. Gunfire, snarls, the shattering of glass and bone. Every sound felt like Dante's last breath. The scarred man yanked open a steel door at the bottom of the stairs, revealing a tunnel carved into the earth. "Go!" he barked. "This leads into the forest. Don't stop until you see the lanterns." Elena's breath came ragged. Her child whimpered, sensing her terror. "What about Dante?" she demanded, her voice cracking. The man's scar twisted as his jaw clenched. "Boss can handle himself. You can't. Move." But Elena froze, her body torn between terror and love. If she left now, would she ever see Dante again? Would her son? Another explosion rocked the foundation. Dust rained from the ceiling, and the baby wailed. The scarred man shoved her forward. "Run or he dies. Your choice." Her legs finally obeyed. She sprinted into the tunnel, the echoes of chaos fading behind her, swallowed by the earth. The passage was long, narrow, suffocating. Her feet slipped on the damp stone, but she kept going, whispering to her son through tears. "Hold on, baby. Just hold on." After what felt like forever, a faint glow appeared ahead. Lantern light. She burst out of the tunnel into the forest, the cold night air slicing against her skin. The trees loomed tall, their branches clawing at the sky like skeletal hands. The scarred man followed close, his gun drawn, his eyes scanning the shadows. "Stay low. Keep quiet," he ordered, but quiet was impossible. Her child cried, his tiny voice carrying through the trees. Elena shushed him desperately, but the sound had already spread. From the darkness, a howl answered. Long, low, hungry. Elena's blood froze. They're out here. The scarred man didn't look at her. They're everywhere. Suddenly, movement flickered between the trees. Shadows darted through the fog, fast and silent, circling them. The lanterns swung wildly, their light barely piercing the gloom. Elena's pulse raced. She could hear them now, paws pounding against the earth, growls vibrating through the night. Closing in, the scarred man shoved her toward a narrow trail. Run, don't stop. I'll cover you. No, she cried, her voice breaking. You'll be killed. I'm already dead, he snapped, firing into the darkness. Go! The gunshots cracked through the forest, followed by snarls and screams. Elena ran, branches tearing at her arms, her breath ragged, her baby clutched so tight she thought she might crush him. She didn't look back. She couldn't, but the forest gave her no mercy. From the left, a figure burst through the trees, a half-shifted wolf, its eyes glowing red, its fangs bared. Elena screamed, stumbling backward. The beast lunged, and was slammed to the ground by another shadow, Dante. He was monstrous, his body half-human, half-wolf, claws dripping with blood, eyes burning gold. He tore into the enemy with savage ferocity, a roar splitting the night. Elena froze, trembling, torn between terror and relief. He wasn't dead, but he wasn't fully Dante either. The beast in him turned its golden eyes toward her. For a heartbeat, she didn't know if he recognized her at all. Her child cried louder, and something shifted in Dante's gaze. Recognition, pain, love. He growled low, forcing the wolf back down, forcing himself into control. Run! He roared, his voice fractured between man and beast. I'll hold them. Tears streamed down her face as she clutched her son. I can't leave you. You already did once, he snarled, blood dripping from his claws. You won't survive if you stay. Go. Another howl echoed closer this time. Dozens of shadows broke through the trees, their eyes glowing like stars in the dark. Dante launched himself at them, a whirlwind of claws and fury, the forest exploding with violence around him. Elena turned and ran, her sobs breaking the silence between gunshots and howls. Branches tore her skin, mud splashed her legs, her lungs burned, but she didn't stop. Her child's cries guided her like a beacon, louder than the chaos behind her. She whispered through her tears, Please, God, please don't let him die. Please don't let this be the last time. The forest swallowed her, and with it, the man she had once loved, the man who was now fighting an army of beasts to buy her time. And as the lanterns flickered faintly in the distance, Elena realized she was running not just from danger, but from the only man who could ever protect her child. Elena stumbled through the undergrowth, every breath tearing at her chest. Her baby had gone quiet, exhausted from crying, his small body trembling against hers. The silence was worse than the screams. It meant the child had given up his protest, too weak to fight her desperate pace. The forest stretched on endlessly, trees blotting out the moon, roots clawing at her every step. Her legs felt carved from stone, her arms numb from the weight of her child. But then, a flicker of light. She froze, her heart pounding. Lanterns, just as the scarred man had promised. Her knees buckled with relief as she pushed forward, breaking through the last of the branches until she reached a clearing. There, nestled against the hillside, stood an old hunting lodge, its roof sagging, its wooden walls blackened with age. But light glowed faintly from within. Elena's body shook with both relief and suspicion. It could be safety, or it could be a trap. Her son whimpered softly, forcing her choice. There was no turning back. She approached the door, her knuckles trembling as she rapped against the wood. Please, she whispered, her voice breaking. Please, someone, help us. The door creaked open. A hand shot out, seizing her wrist. Elena gasped, nearly screaming, until a familiar face stepped into the light. The scarred man. Her knees nearly gave out. You, she stammered. You were supposed to be dead? He finished, a bitter smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. Not yet. He pulled her inside, slamming the door behind them. The lodge smelled of smoke and damp earth, a single lantern casting jagged shadows across the walls. There were weapons stacked in the corner, Guns, knives, silver-tipped arrows. Elena clutched her child tighter. Her voice trembled. How did you survive? The scarred man dropped into a chair, breathing hard. Didn't, not really. Lost men out there, lost blood. But I made it. Crawled through their teeth to keep my promise. Elena's tears blurred her vision. She wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe he was here to save them. But doubt gnawed at her heart. Why? She whispered. Why help me? Why not just leave us to die like the others? The scarred man's gaze dropped to the baby in her arms. Because he matters. More than you know. Elena stiffened. Her voice sharpened with fear. You sound like them. Like the ones who hunted us. He shook his head slowly. No, not like them. I don't want him destroyed. I want him alive. Protected. Because if he survives, maybe, just maybe, the rest of us have a chance too. His words hung heavy in the air. Elena felt her heart pound against her ribs, torn between gratitude and dread. Protected from who? She demanded. From Dante's enemies? Or from Dante himself? The scarred man's eyes darkened, unreadable. Both. The baby stirred then, his little hand reaching out, tugging at the scarred man's sleeve. The hardened soldier froze, his rough exterior cracking, as something almost tender flickered in his gaze. But before Elena could process it, a sound shattered the fragile moment. A howl, closer this time, so close the wooden walls seemed to tremble. The scarred man jumped to his feet, grabbing a rifle. They found us. Move away from the door. Elena's body went rigid, clutching her child as the howls multiplied. Dozens of them, surrounding the lodge. The baby whimpered, his small body tensing as if he could sense the predators outside. Then, the lantern flickered, the shadows twisting unnaturally across the walls. The air grew heavier, charged, as though the forest itself held its breath. Elena's fear turned to ice. Her child's eyes, normally soft and innocent, glowed faintly. Golden. She gasped, holding him tighter, whispering desperately, No, not now. Please, not now. The scarred man saw it too, his rifle lowered, his face pale. It's starting, he muttered. The blood is waking in him. The door rattled violently, claws scraping against the wood. The lodge shook as the beasts outside threw themselves against it. Elena's heart thundered, caught between terror for her child and fear of what he was becoming. The scarred man raised his weapon again, his jaw set. If the boy's power shows tonight, it might save us, or kill us all. The baby cried, the sound piercing, unnatural, almost vibrating the air around them. And as the door cracked under the weight of the assault, Elena realized the truth. Her child was no longer just in danger. He was the danger. The wooden door of the hunting lodge groaned under the assault, splinters flying inward with every strike. Outside, the howls rose higher, wilder, an unholy chorus that shook Elena's bones. Her baby cried harder, the glow in his eyes intensifying, gold bleeding into the darkness like molten fire. Elena pressed him to her chest, whispering desperately, Shh, please baby, don't do this now. The scarred man shoved a heavy dresser against the door, sweat glistening on his brow. He cocked his rifle, teeth clenched. They'll break through in seconds. The walls shook again. The baby screamed. And suddenly, the lanterns flickered violently, then burst, glass raining across the floor. Darkness swallowed the room. Only the faint golden glow from the child's eyes lit the space. Elena gasped. Her son's small body trembled in her arms, his cries turning into something sharper, deeper, almost resonant. The air vibrated. The scarred man froze, his rifle lowering slightly. What is he doing? Elena's tears blurred her sight. I don't know. The door exploded inward. Beasts flooded the lodge, twisted wolves, their eyes burning red, their jaws snapping with hunger. The scarred man opened fire, the room erupting with gunfire, smoke, and snarls. Bodies fell, but more surged forward. Elena screamed, clutching her child, backing into the farthest corner. One of the beasts leapt toward her, claws outstretched. The baby wailed, and the world shattered. A shockwave of golden light blasted from his tiny body, hurling the beast across the room like a rag doll. Wood splintered, windows shattered. Flames roared as lantern oil caught fire. The wolves recoiled, howling in agony as the power tore through them. Some dropped dead instantly, their bodies smoking, while others staggered back, blinded and burned. Elena stared in horror, her baby glowing in her arms, his cries no longer human. His tiny fists clenched, and the walls trembled as if the forest itself bent to his will. The scarred man shielded his face, shouting over the chaos. "Control him! He'll bring the whole place down." But Elena couldn't. Her son's power was raw, wild, uncontrollable. Every cry brought another wave of destruction, fire licking the walls, shadows writhing unnaturally, the ground shaking beneath their feet. Beasts tried to advance again, but the child screamed once more, and another shockwave tore through them, sending their bodies crashing into the trees outside. The lodge was falling apart. Timbers cracked, flames spread, smoke thickened. Elena coughed, her voice breaking. "Stop, baby. Please stop. You're going to kill us." Her son's glowing eyes flicked up at her. For a brief heartbeat, the golden fire dimmed. Recognition, love. But then another beast lunged from the smoke. The child's eyes flared again, brighter than ever, and his power surged uncontrollably. The entire wall blew outward, flames devouring the night sky. The beasts outside howled and scattered, retreating into the shadows. And then, through the fire and smoke, Dante appeared. Half wolf, half man, drenched in blood and ash. His golden eyes locked instantly on the child in Elena's arms. His voice was a guttural snarl, yet laced with awe. "It's begun." Elena's knees shook, her heart breaking as she cried out to him. "Help me, he can't stop!" Dante moved forward, his beast straining to dominate him, his human heart desperate to reach them. He dropped to his knees before her, claws digging into the floor, his voice torn between command and plea. "Look at me, Elena, let me take him. I can ground him. I can shield him." She clutched the baby tighter, shaking her head. "No, every time you touch him, it gets worse. What if you push him further?" The scarred man shouted over the roar of fire. "You don't have a choice! If that power keeps building, there won't be anything left to save." The baby screamed again, his glow blazing, the roof above them groaning as fire licked higher. Dante's eyes burned into Elena's, fierce and desperate. "Trust me, or you both die here." Tears streamed down her face. Her arms ached. Her child's power surged, tearing the lodge apart piece by piece. And finally, with a broken sob, she extended her trembling hands, placing her son into Dante's waiting arms. The moment Dante held him, the baby's cries faltered. The golden glow pulsed once more, then slowly dimmed, the child collapsing into exhausted sleep against his father's chest. The fire still raged. The lodge still cracked and groaned, but the storm inside the child had ended. Dante looked down at him, then at Elena, his beastly face softened by something raw and human. "He's strong, stronger than me, stronger than all of us," Elena, shaking, whispered, "or strong enough to destroy us all." Outside, the surviving beasts howled again, regrouping in the distance. The battle wasn't over, but inside the burning ruins of the lodge, one truth was undeniable. Their child had just chosen his place in this war. The lodge was collapsing around them, fire devouring the rafters, smoke choking the air. Dante cradled his sleeping son in one arm, his claws retracted now, his monstrous form slowly retreating. The boy's golden glow had faded, leaving him small and fragile once more. But the memory of his power lingered in every shattered wall, every burning beam. Elena coughed violently, tears streaming from smoke-stung eyes. "We can't stay. It's coming down." The scarred man gritted his teeth, slinging his rifle over his shoulder as he shoved debris away from the back wall. "There's a way out through here. Move before the whole roof falls." A thunderous crack split the night. The ceiling gave way in the front room, fire and timbers crashing where Elena had stood moments ago. She gasped, stumbling forward, reaching Dante's side. He caught her wrist, pulling her close. His voice was gravel, raw with both beast and man. "Stay behind me." Together, the three of them forced their way through the wreckage, the scarred man clearing the path, Dante shielding mother and child from falling debris. They burst out into the cold night air just as the hunting lodge collapsed behind them, flames swallowing the structure whole. Elena turned, staring at the inferno, her baby safe but her heart still racing. The place that had been a fleeting refuge was now ash. Her voice trembled. "There's nowhere left to run." The scarred man spat into the dirt, his scar pulling as he spoke. Then we stop running. Dante's golden eyes glowed faintly in the firelight. He tightened his grip on his son, his jaw set like stone. They know what he is now. They'll come harder, faster. Elena looked between them, her fear breaking into anger. You talk like this is a war, but he's just a baby. He didn't ask for this curse, this fight. He didn't ask for you. Her voice cracked, raw and furious, echoing through the burning forest. Dante flinched, his claws flexing unconsciously. But he didn't look away. Elena, he said quietly. He is the fight. Every side wants him. If we don't protect him, they'll take him. Twist him into something worse than me. Her tears spilled over, her arms reaching instinctively for her son. Dante hesitated, then reluctantly placed the child back into her embrace. The baby stirred but didn't wake, his tiny hand curling against her chest. She held him close, her voice trembling. And what if it's not them? What if it's you who twists him? What if you're the monster he becomes? Silence pressed heavy between them. The fire crackled, the forest whispered, and Dante's beastly face shadowed with pain. The scarred man broke the tension, his voice cold and practical. Argue later, move now. Those things scattered, but they'll regroup, and when they do, they'll come with numbers we can't fight. Elena swallowed her words, nodding reluctantly. Her body shook with exhaustion, but survival demanded movement. They followed the scarred man deeper into the forest, the glow of the burning lodge fading behind them. Every step felt heavier, the night closing in, the howls echoing faintly in the distance. At last, they reached a ridge overlooking a valley. The moon hung high, silver light washing over endless trees. In the distance, smoke rose from villages, signs of battles already raging. Elena stared, horror tightening her chest. It's everywhere. Dante's gaze fixed on the horizon, his expression grim. This isn't just about us anymore. They're mobilizing. They won't stop until either he's theirs, or he's dead. The scarred man set his rifle against the ground, his voice low but steady. Then we find allies before they do. I know people, mercenaries, old soldiers, men who've fought beasts like these before. We'll need them if we're to stand a chance. Elena shook her head violently. No more soldiers. No more guns. I won't have my son raised on war. Her words carried fire, but Dante's reply was iron. He doesn't get to choose. Neither do we. Elena's knees weakened, her fury crumbling into grief. She sank to the ground, clutching her son, whispering brokenly, He's just a baby. Just my baby. Dante crouched beside her, his monstrous form fading further until his human face emerged again. Bloodied, weary, but achingly vulnerable. He touched her shoulder, voice low and solemn. I swear to you, Elena, whatever it takes, I'll carry this curse for him. I'll be the monster if it means he gets to be the child. She lifted her tear-streaked face to his, searching for truth in his eyes. For the first time, she saw not just the Mafia Boss, not just the cursed wolf, but a man breaking under the weight of love and damnation. And though fear still gnawed at her, something fragile stirred in her chest. Hope, or the illusion of it. The scarred man raised his weapon, scanning the tree line. Save the vows for later. We move before dawn. Dante stood, pulling Elena to her feet, their child between them. Fragile, dangerous, and destined for war. The fire behind them lit the sky like a warning. Ahead, the forest loomed with unseen threats, but one truth burned brighter than either. The world had seen their son's power, and nothing would ever be the same again. The forest never slept. Branches creaked like whispers. The wind carried phantom howls, and every shadow seemed to stalk them. Elena trudged forward, her baby bundled close against her chest. Her arms ached, her body screamed for rest, but stopping was not an option. Behind them, smoke from the burning lodge still drifted faintly across the horizon, a beacon for their pursuers. The scarred man moved at the front, silent and alert, his rifle ready. Dante followed behind, golden eyes cutting through the dark, his beast simmering beneath his skin. Every sound made him tense, every twig snap, every rustle. Elena's voice broke the silence, trembling with exhaustion. How much farther? The scarred man didn't turn. Far enough they can't scent us. If we keep moving, she nearly collapsed. Her legs had turned to lead, her lungs raw from the night air. Her baby stirred restlessly, whimpering. He needed rest. She needed rest. Please, she whispered, slowing. He can't take much more. I can't take much more. Dante stopped beside her, his gaze fierce but softening when it fell on the child. He reached out, his large hands hesitant. Let me carry him. Elena flinched instinctively, tightening her hold. Her voice sharpened with fear. No, every time he's near you, it triggers something. Pain flickered in Dante's expression, quickly buried beneath resolve. Elena, he's not just yours to carry. He's ours. If he breaks under this pace, neither of you will survive, the scarred man hissed low, scanning the trees. Argue later. Move now! But the words were drowned out by a sound that froze them all, a howl. Closer than before, then another. And another? The echoes overlapped, surrounding them like a net tightening in the night. Elena's heart pounded. They've found us. Dante's eyes flared gold. His voice dropped into a growl. Not yet, but they will, the scarred man pointed ahead. There's a ravine up ahead. If we cross it, we can lose them in the river. They pushed forward, the howls growing louder, the ground vibrating under the pursuit. The baby stirred again, his tiny hands twitching, golden sparks flickering faintly in his eyes even in sleep. Elena's fear sharpened into desperation. What if they want him to wake up? What if they're driving us to force his power out? Dante glanced back at her, his face a mask of shadows. Then we don't give them the chance. The forest thinned, the ground sloping downward. Moonlight revealed the ravine, a wide, rushing river cutting through jagged rocks. The water below churned violently, cold and merciless. Elena froze. We can't cross that. He's a baby. I'll drown us both, the scarred man cursed under his breath. They'll be here in seconds. It's this or death. The howls exploded behind them. Figures burst through the trees, dozens of them, red eyes glowing, claws flashing. Dante stepped forward, his body shifting, claws extending, his voice a roar. Go, I'll hold them. Elena's scream tore out of her. No, you'll die. But Dante was already moving, a wall of fury against the pack. His claws slashed, his teeth tore, his beast unleashed with savage abandon. The ground shook with the violence of his stand. The scarred man grabbed Elena's arm, dragging her toward the ravine. Now, jump! She shook her head wildly, clutching her child. I can't do this. The scarred man's voice was a razor. You already did once. Do it again or he dies here. Tears blinded her eyes. Her baby whimpered, his golden sparks flickering brighter, feeding on her terror. She realized with horror that her fear was fueling him. She forced herself to breathe, to steady her shaking hands. She kissed her son's head, whispering, Hold on, my love. Mama's got you. And then, with one last look at Dante, raging against the horde, Elena leapt. The world spun, air tearing past her as the river swallowed them whole, cold, dark, endless. The water dragged her under, ripping the breath from her lungs. She clung to her child with every ounce of strength, her arms burning, her body twisting in the current. Her son let out a cry, high, sharp, piercing even through the roar of the river. Golden light flickered beneath the waves, wrapping around them like a shield, keeping the water from crushing them. Elena broke the surface, gasping, her child glowing faintly against her chest. The current dragged them downstream, spinning them wildly, but they were alive. The scarred man surfaced nearby, grabbing a branch jutting from the rocks. He reached for her, his voice hoarse. Grab on. She did, clinging with one arm, her baby still against her chest. Her body shook, her breath ragged, but relief crashed over her. Above the ravine, howls echoed. The beasts paced the edge, furious, unable to follow. But Dante's roar still carried through the night. Savage and unrelenting, Elena clung to the branch, her son's glow fading as he drifted back into exhausted sleep. Her tears mixed with the river as she whispered, Please, Dante, come back to us. The river was merciless. It dragged Elena and her child downstream, tossing them like rag dolls in its icy grip. Her lungs burned, her muscles screamed, and still she clutched her baby to her chest, whispering broken prayers between gasps. Stay with me. Please, stay with me. The scarred man swam beside her, his powerful strokes cutting through the water. When her strength faltered, his hand clamped around her arm, dragging her toward the bank. They slammed against the muddy shore, coughing, choking, every breath like fire. Elena collapsed on the ground, shivering uncontrollably, her baby clutched tight against her soaked dress. He was alive. His tiny chest rose and fell, soft whimpers breaking the night. Relief nearly shattered her. She pressed her lips to his forehead, crying silently. But then reality crashed back. The river roared between them and the forest where Dante had been left behind. The howls, his roars, and then silence. Her heart seized. She sat up sharply, eyes wide with terror. Dante, the scarred man, sat a few feet away, wringing the water from his clothes, his expression grim. He didn't look at her, didn't say the words, and that silence cut deeper than any blade. Elena's voice cracked, raw with desperation. He's still out there. We have to go back. The scarred man finally turned to her, his face hard. If he's alive, he'll find us. If he's not, he shook his head. You go back now. You'll be handing that child straight into their claws. She shook her head violently, tears blurring her vision. You don't understand. He's not just some man. He's a monster, the scarred man finished sharply, his eyes flashing. Because that's what he is. A cursed beast. And so is your son. Elena recoiled as if struck. Her arms tightened protectively around her child. Don't you ever say that. He's my baby, my son. He's innocent. The scarred man's jaw clenched. Innocent, maybe, but powerful. Do you know what hunters like the one chasing us would pay to get their hands on him? Do you know the kind of war that child could ignite? Her voice hardened, trembling with fury. Then I'll burn the world down before I let anyone take him. The scarred man studied her, his sharp gaze softening just slightly, spoken like someone who's already lost too much. For a moment, the only sound was the river, endless and cold. Elena cradled her baby close, rocking him, whispering, You'll never be alone. Not while I breathe. The scarred man rose, scanning the tree line. We need shelter. They'll keep searching the banks. If we don't move, we won't last until dawn. Elena staggered to her feet, every muscle aching. Her eyes drifted back toward the river, toward the forest beyond. She could almost feel Dante there, calling to her. Please come back to me. But there was no sign of him, only darkness. Hours later, they found an abandoned hunting shack deep in the woods. Its roof sagged, its windows broken, but it was shelter. The scarred man started a small fire, its glow flickering across his weathered face. Elena sat near the flames, her baby wrapped in her damp shawl. She brushed the soft tufts of his hair, humming faintly to soothe him. Her mind drifted back to Dante, his eyes, his touch, his desperate plea before he charged into the horde. Tears stung her eyes again. She whispered, almost to herself, He promised he'd protect us. The scarred man didn't look up from the fire. Protection comes at a cost, sometimes the ones we need most. Don't come back. Her chest clenched. No, he's alive. I'll feel it when he's gone. I'll know. The scarred man finally glanced at her, his gaze sharp but weary. You love him, even knowing what he is? Her eyes met his, fierce and unyielding. Yes, because what he is doesn't matter. Who he is does. For once, the scarred man had no reply. He only stared into the fire, as if seeing ghosts in the flames. Later that night, when her baby drifted into sleep, Elena slipped outside. The forest was quiet, too quiet. She tilted her head back, staring at the moon, its pale glow breaking through the trees. Her voice trembled as she whispered into the night. Dante, wherever you are, come back to us, please. The wind stirred, rustling the leaves like a whispering answer. And though the night gave her no sign, deep in her chest, she clung to the fragile thread of hope that their bond, their love, would not be broken. The battlefield was painted in blood. Bodies lay broken across the forest floor, claws and fangs having ripped them apart. The moon shone down, pale and merciless, illuminating the carnage, and at the center of it, Dante. He stood barely upright, chest heaving, golden eyes blazing. His hands dripped crimson, claws still extended, his clothes torn to shreds. Each breath was a growl, each movement edged with pain, but he was alive. The pack had come at him in waves. He had torn through them with fury that was not his own, but the beast's. Every strike, every roar, every kill had cost him pieces of himself. And now, as silence finally fell, the weight of it crushed him. He staggered, dropping to his knees. Blood seeped from wounds across his arms, his ribs, his shoulder. But worse than the wounds was the darkness coiling inside him. The beast, hungry, restless, unsatisfied. His vision blurred, His pulse thundered. And then he saw it, a flicker of gold, not far away, drifting like a ghost in his mind. Elena, the baby. Their bond tugged at him, fragile but unbroken. It pulled him back from the brink. They're alive. The thought steadied him, anchoring him when his body threatened to collapse. But the forest wasn't empty. From the shadows, a slow clap echoed. A tall figure emerged, dark suit, pale face, eyes like black stone. Not a wolf, not human either. The Alpha. The scarred man's warnings rushed back. Stories of a leader who had lived centuries, cursed and powerful beyond reason. And here he was, untouched by time, untouched by pity. Dante forced himself upright, baring his teeth. You sent them. You wanted her, the Alpha smiled, cold and sharp. Her? No, boy. Him. The child. Rage surged through Dante, his claws flexing. You'll never touch him. The Alpha tilted his head, studying him. You think you can protect them? Look at yourself. You're already half beast, half lost. Soon you won't know the difference between lover, son, or prey. Dante's body trembled. The beast inside him snarled, clawing for control. The Alpha's voice slithered like poison. You fight me now, you'll fall. And when you fall, she'll see what you truly are. A monster, no better than me. Dante's breath grew ragged, sweat and blood mixing on his skin. For a terrifying moment he felt it, the beast surging higher, threatening to drown him, to tear free completely. Elena's voice echoed in his memory. Who he is matters, not what he is. That thread, her words, her love, held him. He forced the beast back, snarling through clenched teeth. I am not you. The Alpha's smile faded, his gaze hardening. We'll see. And then, as suddenly as he had appeared, the Alpha turned and melted into the forest, shadows swallowing him whole. Not defeated, not gone. Waiting. Dante collapsed to one knee, gripping his chest, his body shuddering with exhaustion. Every muscle screamed, his wounds burned, but the bond with Elena tugged at him again, stronger now, guiding him like a compass. He staggered forward, each step agony, but he refused to stop. The river lay ahead. Beyond it, her. Hours passed before he reached the opposite bank, dawn just beginning to bleed across the sky. The river was calmer here, but the memory of Elena's leap seared into his mind. He pictured her clutching their child, her courage, her terror. He whispered hoarsely, Hold on. I'm coming. Far away in the abandoned shack, Elena startled awake. Her baby stirred against her chest, a soft cry escaping his lips. And in his tiny golden eyes, light flickered again. This time not in fear, but in recognition. She gasped, clutching him tighter. Dante! Her heart pounded, hope flaring anew. The forest was hushed when Dante stumbled through it, every step heavy with pain. Branches clawed at his skin, wounds burning, but nothing could slow him. The bond tugged stronger with each passing moment, guiding him through the trees until, at last, he saw it. A faint wisp of smoke curling above the tree line. The shack. He forced himself forward, heart pounding with something fiercer than fear. Hope. Inside, Elena sat near the fading fire. Her baby slept in her arms, his tiny breath steady, his face angelic against her chest. Her eyes were heavy with exhaustion, yet every few minutes she lifted her head, staring at the door as though sheer willpower could summon Dante. When the floorboards creaked outside, she stiffened. Her pulse raced. She rose slowly, clutching her child, dread twisting inside her. The door creaked open, and there he was. Dante filled the doorway, bloodied, torn, his golden eyes glowing faintly in the gloom. For a moment she couldn't breathe. She didn't know if he was man, beast, or something in between. Then his voice, hoarse, trembling, cut through the silence. Elena, her knees nearly gave way. Tears welled in her eyes as she whispered, You're alive. She rushed to him, but stopped short when she saw the state of him. Claws still half extended, blood dripping from fresh wounds, his chest rising in ragged heaves. The beast lingered just beneath his skin, restless and dangerous. Dante's gaze softened when it fell on the child. He reached out with shaking hands. Let me see him. Elena's arms tightened instinctively around her son. Her voice trembled. You're not safe. Not yet. The words cut him deeper than any wound. His hands fell to his sides, his expression raw with hurt. You think I'd harm him? Tears streamed down her face. I don't know anymore, Dante. I saw what you became. I felt it in the air when you fought. You weren't yourself. You were something else. He staggered forward, pain etched into every line of his body, his voice breaking. I had to be. If I hadn't, you'd both be dead. Don't you see? I can't protect you without the beast, but every time I use it, I lose more of myself. Her lip quivered, her heart torn. You promised me you wouldn't become the monster they say you are. His eyes burned, fierce and desperate. I'm fighting every second not to. For you, for him, for us. Silence fell, heavy and suffocating. The baby stirred, opening his golden-flecked eyes. The faint glow reflected in Dante's, father and son bound by the same curse, the same destiny. Elena's breath caught. She saw the bond between them, undeniable and terrifying. And yet, she also saw the tenderness in Dante's gaze, the raw ache of a man terrified of losing the only family he had. Her arms slowly loosened, cautiously, trembling. She placed the baby in Dante's arms. Dante held him as though he were made of glass. The child whimpered, then settled, tiny fingers curling against his father's bloodied chest. And in that moment, the beast inside Dante grew quiet. Tears filled his eyes as he whispered, "My son." Elena pressed a hand to her mouth, overwhelmed. The sight of them together was almost too much to bear, too fragile, too fleeting. And yet, it was real. The scarred man who had been silent in the corner finally spoke. His voice was low, but edged with warning. This is temporary. The Alpha isn't finished. He let you live for a reason. He'll come again, and next time, you won't walk away. Dante looked up, his expression hardening, the beast stirring again beneath his skin. Then next time, I'll make sure he doesn't. Elena's hand gripped his arm, fear flashing in her eyes. No, if you let the beast take over again, I'm afraid I'll lose you for good. Dante turned to her, his voice rough but steady. Then help me fight it. Don't give up on me, Elena. I need you. Her tears spilled freely, her heart warring with fear and love. She whispered the only truth she knew. I could never give up on you. But I don't know if love is enough to save you. Dante held his son closer, the firelight flickering across his torn face. For the first time, he allowed the weight of those words to sink in. Outside, the wind shifted. Somewhere deep in the forest, a low, distant howl rose, a reminder that the Alpha was still out there, waiting, and time was running out. The shack was too quiet. The fire burned low, casting long, shivering shadows across the wooden walls. Elena sat curled beside Dante, her baby nestled between them, but her heart refused to settle. Every creak of the shack, every gust of wind, it all felt wrong. Dante's golden eyes stayed fixed on the door. He hadn't slept since they arrived. Every muscle in his battered body ached for rest, but instinct screamed at him. Danger is near. The scarred man paced slowly, checking his rifle, listening with the sharpness of a predator himself. Finally, he muttered, "They're out there, circling, waiting." Elena shivered, her arms tightening around her child. But why wait? Why not attack? Dante's jaw clenched. Because this isn't about killing. It's about control. The Alpha doesn't want to fight. He wants me broken. He wants the child. The scarred man nodded grimly. He'll strike when your guard drops, when fear does half the work for him. The words sent a chill racing down Elena's spine. She looked at Dante, his body trembling faintly as he fought to suppress the beast. Each second cost him, and she could see it, the slow unraveling of the man she loved. The baby stirred in her arms, his golden eyes flickering faintly in the dim light. For a terrifying moment, the glow grew brighter, pulsing in rhythm with Dante's. Father and son connected, their bond tugging at the beast inside both of them. Dante gritted his teeth, forcing the light in his eyes to dim. No, not now, not him. The scarred man's gaze snapped to the child, his face hard. He's awakening. If he unleashes even a fraction of his power here, they'll know. They'll smell it, Elena's heart pounded. Then what do we do? Before anyone could answer, the fire sputtered. The flames bent unnaturally, pulled as if by a hidden breath. Then, silence. The baby whimpered, his tiny hands twitching, and from outside, a voice drifted through the darkness, smooth, Commanding, terrible. Give me the child, and no one else has to die. Elena froze, her blood turning to ice. The Alpha. Dante rose slowly to his feet, his claws extending, his voice a growl. You'll never touch him. A low laugh echoed in response. Such devotion, such defiance. Do you even know what he is, Dante? Do you understand what you've sired? Elena's breath caught. Her gaze darted to Dante, fear and doubt swirling in her chest. The Alpha's words pressed into her like a blade. The voice continued, closer now. He is not just a child. He is a weapon. The firstborn of a cursed bloodline, destined to eclipse even me. And you think love will protect him? The shack shook. The door creaked as shadows slid beneath it, curling like smoke. The scarred man raised his rifle, his voice low. This isn't negotiation. It's intimidation. Stay sharp. Dante stepped forward, his body tense, golden eyes blazing. You want him? Come and take him. The Alpha's laugh rolled through the night. Oh, I will. But not tonight. Tonight, I remind you what happens when you defy me. Suddenly the shack's walls groaned. The air grew heavy, suffocating. A howl split the night, so close it rattled the windows. Then the sound of fire. Elena's eyes widened in horror. Through the cracks in the wood, orange light flickered. The Alpha had set the forest ablaze. Flames licked the trees, spreading fast, smoke pouring in, choking the air. The baby screamed, his tiny body glowing faintly again, his cries shaking the air like a tremor. Elena clutched him tighter, coughing through the smoke. They'll kill him if we stay. The scarred man kicked open the back door, shouting, Move! The fire's driving us right into his hands. It's a trap. Dante grabbed Elena's arm, his voice fierce. Stay behind me. No matter what you see, don't let go. They burst from the shack into the night, flames roaring around them. The forest had become a cage of fire, shadows weaving between the smoke. And at the center of it all, untouched by the blaze, the Alpha stood, tall, unyielding, his black eyes locked on the child. Elena's breath caught, her body trembling. The trap was sprung. There was nowhere left to run. The firestorm roared around them, trees splitting and crashing in showers of sparks. Smoke clawed at Elena's throat as she clutched her baby close, her heart pounding like a drum of war. The Alpha stood tall amid the flames, untouched, his black eyes gleaming with hunger. Hand him to me, he said smoothly, and I may let you both live. Dante stepped forward, his body trembling, every wound screaming, but his eyes blazed golden fire. You'll never have him. The Alpha's smile was sharp and cruel. You can't protect him. You can't even control yourself. That child belongs to me. Something inside Dante snapped. Not with rage, not with hate, with love. He turned to Elena, his voice raw. No matter what happens, protect him. Don't let him see me fall. Elena shook her head violently, tears streaming. No, you promised. You said we'd face this together. The Alpha raised his hands. Shadows surged from the ground, twisting like serpents. Dante's claws extended, his form shifting as the beast inside him tore free. But this time, his roar was not one of surrender. It was defiance. Golden fire erupted from his chest, his beast form merging with his will, no longer in control but controlled. The glow lit the flames brighter than the inferno itself. The Alpha snarled. Impossible! Dante charged. The ground shook as the two forces collided, Alpha's shadows against Dante's blazing fury. Claws slashed, teeth tore. The air itself cracked with their blows. Every strike pushed Dante closer to the edge, his body breaking under the weight of the curse. But love fueled him, kept him standing. Behind them, Elena shielded her child, whispering through tears, Hold on. Dante, please. The baby stirred, his tiny golden eyes glowing fiercely. And then, he cried. The sound pierced through the roar of battle like a bell. Both Dante and the Alpha froze as the cry became something more. A wave of golden light rippling out from the child, pure and untainted, slamming into the Alpha like a force of heaven itself. The Alpha staggered, his shadows recoiling, his face twisted in shock. No, the power is his already. Dante seized the moment. With a roar that split the night, he drove his claws deep into the Alpha's chest. Light exploded from the wound, burning away the darkness. The forest shaking as the Alpha's scream echoed through the flames. And then, silence. The Alpha's body crumbled into ash, scattered by the inferno's wind. The fire began to die, the unnatural storm of shadows fading into nothing. Dante collapsed to his knees, gasping, his body broken and trembling. Elena rushed to him, tears streaming as she knelt at his side. "You did it. You came back to us." He looked up at her, golden eyes softening. "I almost didn't. The beast wanted to stay, but you pulled me back." She pressed her forehead to his, sobbing with relief. "You're not a monster. You never were." Their child stirred between them, his tiny hand reaching out, glowing faintly. Dante took it in his own, his voice breaking. "He saved us. Our son saved us." For the first time in so long, hope burned brighter than fear. The scarred man approached from the smoke, his rifle slung across his back, his expression unreadable. "You won tonight, but others will come. The boy's power, it can't be hidden forever." Elena looked up at him, her arms tightening protectively around her child. "Then let them come. We'll be ready." Dante's gaze hardened, but his hand stayed gentle as it rested against his son's head. "Because we're not running anymore. We fight for him, for us, for the family they'll never take." The scarred man gave a small, rare nod. "Then may the gods help anyone who stands in your way." As dawn broke, the smoke cleared, painting the horizon in shades of gold. Elena leaned into Dante, their child between them, fragile but unbreakable. Together, scarred but stronger, they walked into the morning light. Not just survivors, a family. And this was only the beginning. And so ends the story of Elena, Dante, and the child born of love and curse. A story of fire, blood, and unyielding devotion. But many more tales await. If you were moved, if your heart raced, if you want to hear the next saga of love, danger, and destiny, don't forget to subscribe now to BRD Stories Hub, where every story is a world, every voice a heartbeat, and every ending only the start of something greater.